Okay, we might just give her a moment. Nick, I'm wondering, do you think we should make a start?
Yes, I think we should. Yeah.
Okay, well.
Councillor Lynch.
No one in the waiting room, in other words.
No, no one in the waiting room.
Okay. So good evening and welcome to the Hertford Town Council Planning Subcommittee.
1 second. I think Councillor Lynch needs to
joining us.
send him through to
The meeting on Monday, the 16th of November at 6 p.m. So we'll just start with the agenda. So first of all, just to confirm that this meeting is being recorded. It looks like we're on YouTube live streaming as well. Is that right, Nick?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah. Second item, any apologies for absences?
Chairman, no apologies. Councillor Lynch
is trying to join us. And Nick, you're on mute now. Oh, no more.
Yeah, Chairman. Yeah, he's trying to join us. Yeah, correct.
Okay, so we'll just go through the elements of the agenda anyway. Anyone got any declarations of interest? No. Okay. So then we can move on, and I'd like to approve the minutes of the subcommittee meeting held on the 2nd of November. Any observations before we?
Can I propose them as an accurate record, Jim?
Thank you, Councillor Ruffles. Anyone second that? Thank you, Councillor Newton. And all in favour? Just show a hand. Okay, so those minutes are passed as an accurate record. We now move on to item 5. Are there any matters arising from minutes not dealt with elsewhere? So that's paper A. Nick, are there any updates on paper A?
I believe one of the items on paper A is actually planning application. The metal flue, I think, is actually now on paper.
Yep.
Paper B, yes. That's the only update.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Councillor Toega, you had your hand up.
Yes. Can I ask him, is it appropriate to put on enforcement matters outside Thieves Lane? You know, the big development in Thieves Lane. Seal. The road is muddy and the speed limit I'm not happy about. I know highways didn't want to reduce it, but the main thing is mud on the road. Is that an appropriate matter to put on here as the development was approved?
So, Nick, I would expect that one of the conditions of the application being approved was that the road was regularly cleaned and clear of mud. So is this something we can take up with the district council?
Yeah. Yeah, Chairman, I'll pass it on. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Toega. It's important we sort of nip it in the bud, really.
Yes.
And make sure that they're doing what's needed to keep the road safe. Thank you. So moving on, I'm assuming this is nothing else on paper A. We can move on to paper B.
Chairman,
Yes.
I hope to catch your eye on paper A still. It's the interminable matter on our list of the development at the Rare Breed Farm, and it's gone on for so long, longer than the August 2020 that we've been put
Indeed.
off by district council, and we've accepted that there were actions that they were taking that they couldn't talk about publicly, as it were, and we backed away. But there are more activities.
There's new signage has gone up, hasn't it? And
Signage, and I've seen on social media slots have become available for the Goldings Estate tea room. And I'm not sure whether that's there. It doesn't quite say, but it's been on the Benjo. I think it was on the Benjo Residence, and then also the original Salt Beef Company is at Goldings Estate Rare Breeds Farm. And on 2 nights in November, this last weekend, there was salt beef being sold and with all the trimmings. That doesn't seem to me to be consistent with any of the other things, especially the rare breeds element.
and also no enforcement going on.
Selling the dead meat. So I really wonder whether we couldn't, even if it's a confidential matter to us, that understand quite, what the district's view of all this is, because I think the Seal Ward members in particular have got a duty to try and understand and interpret and explain to other people what is allowed and what
going
isn't
on.
allowed, because there's certainly things wrong.
I don't know, Chairman, but given that she's here, perhaps the leader of the council could undertake to have a word with the leader of the council in at East Herts and indicate that our patience is
waning.
exhausted.
Exhausted, yeah.
Actually,
Threaten them with a writ of mandamus, which I think
we can
means
do that.
forcing a public body to do what it is empowered to do.
Yeah.
That's certainly, Nick. I don't know whether you've any views about how we can progress this, because we've really been told by East Herts, by the district, that they're dealing with it, but clearly there is no evidence whatsoever of any sort of enforcement going on.
I think
Ride roughshod over, and introducing new activities and new retailing income streams. The initial ones, we're still waiting for an answer on the sale of Christmas trees, and that was last Christmas. It's just frankly an embarrassment when members of our ward ask, as a Seal Ward councillor, I can say when members of our ward ask what's going on, it's an embarrassment that really there's no.
Chairman, I can help you, Chairman. Joking apart, I can get in touch with the officers and the chairman of DMC, and I can ask them what is resulting in us not knowing what's going on, and perhaps what processes we can follow to find out what's going on. I can certainly talk to the officers.
Councillor Newton, that would be much appreciated.
Talking to the leader, actually. But I can
it's unusual, Nick, that you don't have an action on paper A. It sounds like Councillor Newton has volunteered, which is most helpful, actually. And Councillor Pinkham, thank you for your input.
Yes,
hopefully we won't need to.
Helpful, thank you.
Councillor Ruffles wants to speak.
Yes, Councillor Ruffles.
Sorry, Chairman. We used to have a device on future business that meant that we had to say something at one meeting and have it considered for possible action at the following meeting after members had time to
make inquiries.
Yeah, themselves. And I've got 3 smallish matters which I just wonder if we could list this time and talk about next time if necessary.
Okay,
and
thank
2
you.
of them I've acted myself on and anyway and put in a request, but one is one that I know that one of the Kingsmead Ward district councillors, Councillor Bolton, knows about and had her attention drawn to, and mine as well. And it's a small matter at number 2 Birdie Way about a shed in the front garden there. And frankly, having looked at it, I think it's borderline. I think it would be borderline even in a conservation area. But I wonder whether members, if I asked for it to be listed now, between now and next meeting, could form a view about it and decide whether we really want to pursue that one. But as I say, it's not my ward, and I'm not pushing hard, but I'd just like us to look at it. And the other one is an internally illuminated sign at Pound Stretcher, which I'd been pursuing myself, again, not in my own ward, so I'll be in trouble with the leader. And I was told after about a year that the case was closed for enforcement on Pound Stretcher, but the light is still on. It's internally illuminated, and there's a new one over the road, which I've also reported at Costa Coffee, or what's above it. And the other one is some skips are appearing above the wall at the corner of Wareham's Lane. There's a new skip company moved into land there, and the skips are now beginning to tower up, certainly visibly above the wall. And I wonder whether members perhaps would look at that in the next 2 weeks and decide whether we want to take action or try to take action.
Okay, so Nick, did you get those 3 elements? I think
2 Birdie Way, Pound Stretcher, and Wareham's Lane.
Chairman,
Thank you,
Councillor
Councillor
Ruffles,
Ruffles.
thank you. Yeah.
So beyond those items not being dealt with elsewhere on the agenda, we can now move on, I think, to paper B. And the first item on paper B is 42 Brookenden Lane. So Nick, are you going to share your screen, are you? So this is quite an interesting one, in that a couple of years ago, they had their application turned down as inappropriate development in the green belt.
Are we on the same subject, Chairman?
I believe so, 42 Brookenden Lane. I'm hoping that we're going to get.
It's not. I don't.
But
think...
I find that interesting, really.
It's not green belt. Can't be.
Wow. You wouldn't think so, would you? Because it's it's the road that runs parallel to the main road, isn't it? And
Yeah.
Yes.
but maybe subsequently, certainly. Well, first of all, perhaps open it to others.
Well, I mean, it is in my ward, so I will say something about it. I mean, I've got no issues really with the rear extension. I mean, it's pretty large, but there are other rear extensions in that row of houses, and I don't think it's not something I'd want to get excited about. The front extensions generally we don't like very much, do we? This is really the extension of it says demolition of a porch, but I think it's extension of a porch really across the whole front of the house. If you like those houses, it spoils the symmetry of the front. Is out of keeping, I suppose. But on the other hand, they're municipal houses, certain vintage. It doesn't really appall me.
Chairman, number 44 and 46 have already done that.
Exactly.
Thing.
If we go back to the block plan, you can just about see, Nick, if we just go back to that block plan, you can just about see that 44. Which is at the bottom of the picture. You can sort of see they've got a front porch. By way of the fact they've broken that line, and you can see the large rear extension, which actually Google Maps, when you look at the satellite view, it's quite useful because you can see people's back gardens or at least the plan of what's been built, and it is similar in scale to what's being proposed here. So, I mean, overall, are we? I know what you say, Councillor Pinkham, but I can't personally get to.
No, me. I mean, I personally wouldn't oppose this. I wouldn't comment on it.
Yeah. So I think it's probably a no objection, is it? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a no objection then. Nick, if we could move on to 46 Cowper Crescent.
Apologies for being late.
Ah, welcome, Councillor Lynch. Technology.
No, personal.
Oh well. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So we're now looking at 46 Cowper Crescent, the second item on paper B. Part demolition of ground floor and erection of 2-storey side extension. Do we have the block plan by any chance, Nick? The only reason I asked for the block plan is because you can see, well, we can see from these actually elevations that it's quite a sizable extension. Any observations?
It's on the. It doesn't seem to show up here, but it is on the bend. So to the rear, it sort of widens out quite a bit. That doesn't look quite as sharp a bend to me as reality, but I suppose it is.
The reason I put this view up is because it's similar in size and scale to number 48, who've already completed the same extension by the looks of it.
Yeah.
So I know we should be considering each, on its own merit. But I can't. Although it is quite a large extension, I personally can't find any issue with it.
No.
I agree.
Are we all happy with the materials in terms of it keeping it in keeping with the area? I just wanted to check that.
Yeah, perhaps we'll go back to the elevations then, Nick. It's all about matching existing, isn't it?
Yeah,
apart from the
it's fine.
infamous bifolding windows, bifolding doors or whatever, powder coated aluminium.
Yes. Right.
They're quite modern houses along Cowper Crescent, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Fine. That's fine.
And the concrete tiles are matching.
Yeah.
I'm a no objection. Are we happy with no objection?
No objection.
Thank you. Okay, Nick, we'll move on to 13 Queen's Road, which was replacement of a porch and single-storey rear extension.
I'm not sure about this one, the porch in the conservation area. I'd like to hear what people have to say about that.
Waiting for the images.
Yeah. Isn't there already a porch there?
Yeah.
There is, yes.
Yeah. This is just. It strikes me that it's a better looking porch than.
Yeah.
They had a sort of side entrance, and they're now going to have it's going to be at sort of 45 degrees. It took me a while because I was looking in both elevations, thinking, well, how come you can see the front door in both elevations? And then I realized it's sort of at 45 degrees, isn't it? The front door, the new front door will be. So I have to say it is a replacement. My feeling is it looks to be in keeping with the existing building.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful existing building, isn't it? With its various. It's a thing that
Indeed.
we probably
It is.
not favour if it came before us today as a new application.
But actually, when you look along Queen's Road, there are
Yeah.
quite a few with various different roof lines and shapes to them, and
I think
gives
it's
it some
great.
character.
Yeah.
I think they've thought about it, and it looks pretty good. But the back, isn't this the orangery that it's filling in a gap, isn't it, in the building? I didn't think there was much to say about it, to be honest. Yeah,
Again, I didn't have an issue with it.
no.
I thought it was a bit grandiose calling it an orangery, but there we are.
Wow. Takes
So is that a no objection?
Yes.
Yep, no objection from my point of view.
Okay. Now we move on to the first of, I think there's 3 applications for
Yeah.
Parliament Square, 3 Parliament
Yeah.
Square. This is
Chairman,
all. Yeah, I'm sorry, Nick.
sorry, just a note on this one. You may have picked up that the number for this one, 2109 ADV, is the same as the one on paper C.
Indeed.
Yes, but the paper C is the updated description. So
That's
I think
what
it's,
I was about to point out, Nick. You beat me to it.
yes.
So should we consider them on paper C, do you think? Because they sort of all seem to be together there.
Yeah,
Good idea.
I suggest that. Yes.
So let's move on then to 61 St Leonard's Road. And we'll consider prove, as it's going to be called, on paper C. So sorry, Nick. 61
It is.
St Leonard's Road.
It's-
So this is replacement of a single-story rear
details.
extension, a slightly larger extension.
Yeah.
So it's a rear extension, so it's not the front elevation that.
So,
Here we are.
So where have we gone? Which application are we on?
We're
We're
on
on B, sorry.
61 St Leonard's Road. That's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. We're still on
Yeah.
paper B.
Right.
So 61 is on the corner at the bottom of the image. That's it there. And the extension extends out as far as the edge of the building, where before it didn't. The new extension. I'm looking again to the left as we look at that image. The question for me, and I don't know whether they use the garage or not, but it makes it ever tighter for someone to get their vehicle to sort of.
Maybe it's not used as a garage.
If we look at the, I guess, a block plan, or let's have a look. There you can see the garage is at the rear of the property. Oh,
Yeah.
and it sort of slightly overlaps with the end of the building.
There seems to be a gap there, like it's like an L shape.
There was a gap. Well, I don't know. It's just even smaller now. You can see that gap get smaller and smaller. So where that extension now extends out to the edge of the building, where before it didn't.
And the access is in from the front.
Yeah, down the side of the house.
Oh, that may not affect the garage.
But that aside, has anyone any other? There you go. You see.
Hmm.
That aside, I didn't have any particular issues. Any other
No, it's okay.
reviews?
Yeah,
Fine by me.
Yeah.
I think it's a no objection, Nick. And then we go to 3 Nelson Street. And that's quite a useful view, actually.
That's the key view, isn't it?
Is. So, who wants to kick off here?
Clarification, perhaps. What I don't understand is that there seems to be a flue, having looked at it, a flue and an air conditioning unit bolted onto number 5, but presumably it belongs to number 3 because they're talking about eliminating them. So it's a very strange situation at the moment. And this is a semi becoming a terrace, really, which I know we have issues with sometimes.
I wonder if number 3 know about.
I missed that, Councillor Pinkham.
Well, I wonder if number 3 know about this. Obviously, they built something onto the side of 3, which overhangs the land of 5.
Yes.
And
This has been built by 3, isn't it? It has been built by 3.
Oh,
yeah.
has it? I mean, I assume
don't know,
it
I'm
must
asking.
be belong to 5 and that it was no longer in use or something. I don't know. It seems very strange. There you go. You
There's
can
a good picture. Yes, that's a
see
good
very
picture.
strange because all the piping and so on seems to be linked to
To 5.
5, not number
Yes.
3.
I had a good look at it. Yes, it is linked to 5. I mean, the flue goes into 5, not 3.
Yeah.
Perhaps
What is it, by the way? I mean, it's an extraordinary contraption. What is it?
It's a standard air conditioning unit. That's the rectangular bit,
Yeah.
and separate to that, about a meter behind, is
Yeah.
a silver flue that is used for things like wood burners and such like.
Okay,
So
right.
they're 2 separate things.
Well, it won't be there after this has been
No.
created, will it?
So I presume that that number 5 are happy with it being removed.
That's the thing. It's a strange situation. Maybe it's one for the technical, for the officers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but then there's the other issue about converting a semi into a terrace, effectively.
I don't feel I can make a decision on this because I don't quite have enough information on what is quite a bizarre setup.
But in planning terms, you only really have to say whether what they propose is acceptable, not
Not the detail of how it happens.
not engineered on their behalf. And if we think it's acceptable and the planners do, then the owner's job is to negotiate with their neighbour.
Wow.
Maybe the same person owns both. There's no
Yeah.
objection for number 5.
it could
Yeah.
be
Yet.
related.
What's our view from I mean, and Councillor Traeger makes a point about, turning a semi-detached into a terrace.
It's
Um,
back, isn't it? A little.
I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest.
I mean, it's already half
Yes.
a terrace.
It might just even make it look better.
It does make it look better. Nothing could look really worse than that. As it
Yes.
stands, does it?
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think it's personally, it appears to be quite, done in keeping with the nature of the buildings in that area.
And it is set back, so you still have the impression of separation.
Yeah.
Do. And I don't know whether you've seen the photographs in the design access statement that sort of show from the street view, unless you're face onto it,
Yeah. The architect knew what he was doing by saying that.
the
Yes,
infill.
it's true.
Yeah.
You can only see it face on.
Are we in no objection then, even though it's in the conservation area?
Well, I think it actually enhances the conservation area. If you look at what the photographs of what's there at the moment, it's ugly as.
It is ugly,
Yes.
as hell.
Yes, agreed.
I think we're a no objection then. Let's leave it to the planners and the neighbours to decide on where the air conditioning goes. Any planning application to stick that sort of stuff on the side of your conservation area building? Oh, I'm surprised. Anyway, let's move on. We've now completed paper B. I'm on to paper C. And the first item on paper C is 26 New Road, which is in Bengio, conservation area, which is a change in, well, it's not a change in fenestration. It's rather interesting. Why they call it fenestration, I do not know. But it's a change in finishing of the outside of the building from render to brickwork to match the neighbour's property.
Well, will it? I mean, we had an email, didn't we? Will it match? Because they have to remove the render, so presumably they'll be going back half an inch or an inch. But how can you get another layer of bricks in? I don't understand.
Basically, what these are, they're what's the expression?
Slip bricks or something.
Slip bricks, which means they cut the brick into tiles effectively.
Oh, okay.
They're
I get it now.
basing what look like bricks, but
Right.
effectively are in tile panels. They're sticking that. There's not sufficient detail, but my view would be that they're not going to hack a lot of render off. It's too much. That's the whole point. That to actually go back to the brickwork is a significant amount of work and might damage those bricks. Whereas
Yes.
sticking a brick tile to the outside, gives the and once it's done, will look every bit like brickwork.
And the new property, the neighbouring property doesn't look bad at all.
And the neighbouring property is already brick.
Yeah, it looks quite good.
So
Yes, I don't understand why they're objecting. I agree fully with what you've said, and given that the render is not actually uniform across the building because of the extension, it just looks a bit odd at the moment. It must be an improvement, I would have thought.
Yes.
you know, the questions asked by the neighbour are quite pertinent. They say, you know, will they be aged brick as rather sort of bright new looking bricks? Will they line up with the adjoining brickwork? And what's the finish going to be like on the boundary between the two semi-detached? And all those are sort of quite pertinent questions for the planners to look at in detail. But in principle, Councillor Ruffles, sorry.
No, I'm a bit worried about the authenticity side of things in connection with the conservation area, and partly it's what it looks like, but conservation is also
preserving.
There's another, yes, yeah, I suppose you could say preserving. There's the integrity of the whole thing is becoming a little bit farcical, however well intentioned the applicant, in my view. And certainly, I suppose they would do the bonding. It's Flemish bond on the neighbouring property, but these two particular cottages are were the first in New Road. They are of some added interest. There's not much visually different about them, but they were there before any other house in that neighbourhood, I understand. And of course they don't look like a pair now because of the large extension on this current one. I'm a bit concerned about the process, the material process and authenticity, I suppose, more than appearance.
Sorry, have I missed that there was an objection about this?
Certainly the neighbour is objecting.
Oh, I just don't see it, that's all.
And the neighbour has put their comments on the portal, you know, on the planning portal, and they reflect what Councillor Ruffles has mentioned, but also I mentioned, you know, they've concerns about, you know, whether they'll have aged bricks and whether it will look, you know, appropriate in the conservation area. And I think we ought to echo those concerns.
I agree.
Very, I don't know what the word is, of the neighbour to be concerned, considering they've done their own.
Yeah. So Nick, I think perhaps what's best to say, you know, the committee is concerned to maintain.
What the letter said outlines majority of our concerns. Not that we're into plagiarism or anything, but we could use some of the letter.
I think we need to be balanced and have our own.
Yeah, but we can refer to those specifics, surely.
That's true. That's true.
Add whatever
Perhaps
else
the committee sympathise with the neighbours' concerns. We all sympathise. I don't know. Would like.
No, they're
Share.
valid points
Share.
about-
How about we share the concerns expressed by the neighbour?
Acknowledge.
Yeah.
Did we just say we acknowledge?
I suppose,
Can.
if I can say, sorry to,
Yep.
if I could just say something about this. I mean, there are lots of places in Hertford where the finishes of adjoining buildings are different. And it's almost part of the character of the town, its higgledy-pigglediness in this way. And I don't think that it really adds much to the conservation area to have some false bricks put on the front of this of this house. I mean, it doesn't seem to add anything to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's have plastic windows then. And everything.
Yeah, we'll colour them the same colour. But yeah, I mean, I think perhaps, you know, that Councillor Newton, I've forgotten the word you suggested. Echo, was it, or
Knowledge.
acknowledge? We acknowledge the concerns of
Selfish neighbour.
the adjoining property, and would question the authenticity or the authenticity of materials being proposed, and whether this
Within
adds to
within the concept, we need
whether this adds to preserving the look and feel of properties within the conservation area, the look and feel of this property within the.
My guess is the applicant's full of good intentions and going to spend quite a lot of money achieving something that's frankly unnecessary now. I don't quite get it, but I'm still slightly worried that a professional architect would put in an application which says change fenestration when they don't mean that at all. So I wonder whether we could just, although there's no evidence on the planning, on the drawings that we can see, just make quite sure that they don't mean change fenestration in our comment.
Okay, that's fair point, Councillor Ruffles. So, Nick, if we could just also add, we note reference to change of fenestration, but there is no mention in the application of any changes to the windows.
Because the windows which we see on the screen at the moment in front of us are not the same as the ones in the cottage next door. So I wonder if there is a photograph of the one next door, if those who didn't go to.
I think in the design and access statement, I think there's photographs of both.
Doesn't it's not.
No, but I think we ought to just
huge point.
Make that point. Yeah. In fact, if you look at the actual application, which I went and looked at to see what materials they're planning to use, they make no reference to changing the windows.
No, there's nothing on any of the drawings that shows it, but it's odd that a professional company, it's not a local company, it's an Essex company, isn't it, the applicant?
Yeah, we'd put that terminology in. Yeah.
Essex.
Okay, so you've got that, have you, Nick?
Chairman, yes, I have. Yes, thank you. I've noticed that one.
Let's move on to 63 Woodlands Road. Sorry, just finally on 26 New Road. Was it actually an objection or was it just a sort of concern? I think the words I used were concern.
Yeah, concern.
Yeah, okay. So we're moving on to 63 Woodlands Road. Which is on the way up to Foxholes, or I don't know whether it's classed as part of Foxholes.
Not sure.
So this is all on the rear of the property.
The properties are staggered, aren't they, because of the gradient, particularly at the back.
That's true.
There's a height difference both sides.
Has anyone got any observations?
I would have had some concern, but for the fact that the houses are built in a staggered way on the hillside. I think the impact on a neighbour, as you can see from that drawing, I think.
And again, I think it's fairly similar to what the neighbours got. Well, are we talking about 65 or? Because 65 is, as you say, with the staggering, it's
Yeah, 63.
the main building.
Yeah.
That the actual main party wall or whatever extends beyond the end of 65, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But if there were objections, surely the neighbours would have put it in.
I've no personally, I've no objection. So now we move on to 3 Parliament Square, and there are actually 3 applications on paper C.
If I could say one thing about this to start with, and that is that I'm very pleased that that building is coming back into use as a restaurant, or at least that's the proposal from Prove. I'm not so keen on Prove, I don't think, because as far as I can see, just make pizzas. But that said, it's a big established company in the north, and it's not fly-by-night sort of organisation. And I thought, then going on to what they were doing, I thought the signage and such like were entirely in keeping with central Hertford.
If we perhaps start, Councillor Pinkham, with 2109, which is the advertising, the application for advertising and signage. And I also would echo what you said, Councillor Pinkham, in that they seem to have taken on board the externally illuminated signage, and seem to have complied with all our planning guidelines and so on.
Exactly.
And like you, I mean, it's amazing how quickly Café Rouge has sort of fallen into disrepair almost. It's looking quite tatty. And the idea it's going to get a new lease of life, and hopefully post COVID, become a venue that people would want to use is to my mind promising.
Absolutely, fully agree.
Yeah. So in terms of the signage, I mean, I guess we all looked at that, and that they've even sort of outlined the sort of canopies or whatever the what material is it they use, the sort of for the seating area, and they've gone into quite a lot of detail.
I mean, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon at the front are a little bit odd, but I think we all know what will happen to plants that hung up there, so probably shouldn't worry about it too much.
I believe the town has prizes for our hanging baskets, don't we?
Yeah, but not quite like that.
No.
It's a bit like the living wall being proposed for the sports
centre.
Yes.
So are we happy with the signage?
Yep.
Even on a listed building?
Yep.
Yep. So I think it's no objection on 2109 and 2107, which is mainly internals, isn't it? Or how about the new flue pipe at the rear, Councillor Ruffles? I know that you're expert on.
I looked at those millimetre measurements and then decided I couldn't translate them.
It's about the length of a ruler. It's the length of a standard ruler, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't do that. But if it is prominent, I went and stood and looked at it for ages. If it's at the rear, which it is, isn't it? Sticking up a bit, I don't think it matters. What interests me more, this particular application begins with alterations to fenestration. I couldn't actually see again which windows were being altered, but there's on the first floor, the windows are really important, and I would have thought vulnerable to the suggestion of alteration, and I hope we could protect them, because they're all rather dull to look at because they've been blotted out inside with some sticky tape or something, but they are actually where motor cars were displayed for sale, in the same way as at Waters Garage on the first floor, recently done up. There's a large area of glass, and early motor cars and carriages were displayed there. This was also a garage, and that's where the cars were at the turn of the century displayed. So I wouldn't want that fenestration altered. I can't see that it's going to be from the drawings, but why do they begin this particular wording with alterations to fenestration?
So Nick's about to put up the proposed elevations, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, we're on
One second.
2107. We can't see any change in the fenestration. The window trough.
Well, the paint colour and the advertising on the windows is, I think, what they're talking about, isn't it?
So if we look at the proposed front elevation with window trough, which is
That's that one. Yep.
First one up from the bottom.
I guess you're struggling with the technology at the moment, but
Oh, okay, that's it. Okay, I was like, oh yeah.
the one from the bottom, yeah,
Sorry.
it's okay. Here we go. So apart from the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, they don't appear to be making any changes to the windows.
No.
No. So perhaps we would maybe just make a comment that I mean, do we want to welcome the repurposing of this building? Do we want to mention that, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. Councillor Ruffles looked a little bit uncomfortable.
I wouldn't bother. But
Let's just say that we note that this is a historic building, a historic listed building.
yes, grade 2 listed.
Grade 2 listed building.
In use, isn't it? Of I'm getting somebody else in to fill the empty spaces.
Oh, I mean, we're delighted with that, but we just wish for the windows to remain unaltered.
It's the first floor windows, the ones that the plants are hanging over.
Yep.
Which are the ones, just almost sentimental reasons one might want to retain and unaltered. I don't mind if they've got stuff stuck over them, individual panes, but just that extent of window fenestration, marks something that happened in the past, and it's.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should refer to it because the architects might well want, maybe to echo it in some way. You never know. So,
Yeah.
So Nick, if we could just say, particularly the windows on the first floor.
Yeah. They're currently blanked off, aren't they?
They are.
It doesn't look good at the moment.
Which were originally used to display motor vehicles at the turn of the last century. I think that sort of wording is at the turn of the 19th century or 20th century. I don't know. We have to be careful.
A couple of Fiat 500s up there. That would be very attractive.
Well, as I say, the quite often these architects do like to perhaps echo.
Café Rouge did. When they first came, there were garage type illustrations on the walls.
Yeah.
Within.
Well. So did you sort of get a flavour of that, Nick?
Chairman, yes. So just to double check. So the committee note the historic grade 2 listed building, and wish for the windows, particularly on the first floor, to remain unaltered, which were originally used to display motor vehicles at the turn of the 20th century.
Thank you. And whilst we're at it, why don't we just? Oh well, we've touched on the flue, which is on application 2237 on 3 Parliament Square. It's what is it, 3 or 4 down. And I think it's a no objection, isn't it, on the flue?
Yeah. If you're going to have a pizza oven, you've got to have a flue, haven't you? So
yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
And 12 inches, or if we're being pedantic, 14 inches. It's going to protrude from the roof. Councillor Raffles, are you all right with inches?
I'm all right with inches. Yes, thank you.
You won't see it from the front though.
No.
No.
And it's a safety thing about the flow of air, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
All right.
but again, substantial investment that they're putting in, and you know, we're, as you say, it will good to see that building being repurposed. Okay, we'll move on to 20 Maidenhead Street. This is a very strange one, in that there was an application for CLPO, a certificate of lawful something or other. Councillor Ruffles, I'm sure will be able to.
Can't think what PO is.
We had no objection when it came up from our side.
We did, but apparently it was refused on the grounds that it wasn't a permit that was required; it was full planning application that was required. So this is the same application that we have no objection to, but this time as a full planning application as opposed to a CLPO.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have no objection previously.
I know most bank robberies now are kind of online, but security is still
True.
important. Yeah.
We did discuss it at the time. This is at the rear of, I think, is it the Santander building, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we should have any objections to this. It's yeah,
white timber windows as well. I mean, you know.
Extraordinary they should go for timber, and who can object? But very unlikely, really. You get a reasonable view of the back of the property when you go into Maidenhead Yard as you
Yes.
turn to come out, because of that wonderful mess around at the back there of building. It's a glorious set of juxtaposings and angles, but the fact that they're putting timber windows in itself, apart from being extraordinary, is must be
Indeed. So we've got no objection to Maidenhead Street. We now move on to 35 Villiers Street. So again, there was an earlier application which was very modern, and it was a huge dormer that they proposed to stick on the back of the building. This is on the corner with Railway Street, or so. Yes, it is effectively, because there's a sort of quite a large open space down to Railway Street. This new application, it was also opposed by the neighbour on the grounds that it didn't mirror anything to do with their extension, because the neighbours have what is a similar extension to what's now being proposed, which is a sort of pillar. That peaked roof, and I don't know if anyone else wants to comment first.
Well, it's not the back that worries me so much; it's the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we can't come to the back, but if you just look at what's being proposed at the front, I mean, it's just awful. In terms of the,
to my mind, the front porch is still of poor design. And it fails to respect the historic nature of this semi-detached property.
And the coverings for this sort of quasi roof that's been put in for the basement entrance. Well, it detracts, I think, from the house next door. But I don't know.
Absolutely, fully agree. It's crazy.
So I think we still have concerns about the front.
Absolutely, 100%.
So Nick, we feel that the front porch is still of a poor design, failing to respect the historic nature of this property in the conservation area. I mean, the idea of a flat roof, and it's just a sort of protruding block, isn't it, stuck on the front of the house? It's quite poor design.
It seems as though they like modern design, therefore they should move somewhere else if they like modern designs.
Well, they seem to have got it right at the back, for my money anyway. I thought I think we could then go on to say that the rear extension, the design of the rear extension is now more in keeping with the adjoining properties. and I think the roof line that they're proposing and so on, for my money anyway, I'm more comfortable with it than before.
Yes, absolutely.
So are we content with the sort of okay at the back but no good at the front?
Probably,
All right, Nick, we'll
Chairman.
move on to 5 Morgan's Road.
Chairman, sorry, before we do,
Yeah.
can I just confirm, is that a comment or is that a no objection overall?
Oh,
I think it's
no, we object to the front,
Oh, yeah, okay.
but we find the rear of the proposals for the rear of the property more acceptable than the earlier application. And indeed, you know, you can see the neighbouring property. You know, it sort of mirrors those sort of 2 pillars, or you know, it just tidies up actually from the rear, the view of the building. And okay, there's still that dormer there, but the scale of it has been scaled back significantly.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to 5 Morgan's Road, which is a ground floor rear extension to replace the conservatory. Anyone, any comments on 5 Morgan's Road? That's quite a good view, in fact, of what they're proposing to do. You can see at the top the old extension, at the bottom. Oh no, is this the proposed or is this the
This is proposed.
proposed? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, so they had 2. It looks like they had 2 conservatories, and then they're going to take one out and replace it. The bottom right, you can see, yeah, that's it.
Existing.
Yeah. You can see how that bottom right conservatory is being converted into a brick built side extension. I personally, I have no issue.
No,
Might be just worth having a look at the plan, the ground plan.
Yeah, the block plan perhaps.
Yes,
Where it's quite a big plot that this house sits on.
it is, but if it's, I think it caught my eye as I put a note down, so it must be something about it.
There we are.
Yeah, it's quite. It's
It's
quite.
sort of infill, isn't it?
Yeah. So the proposal is the proposal that the all the shaded area, or is that already there?
No, it's just that's. Ooh.
Let's have a look.
No, it's not that whole shaded area. As my understanding, it's just a replacement of the conservatory. That's existing. The location plan existing, and where's new? There we are. So it's just replacing that conservatory with
Yeah, that. There you go.
kitchen
Nice.
area.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, it's the back. Yeah.
No objection.
No problem.
And so the last application on paper C is 49 The Wick.
It's one of my favourite houses in town, this one, Chairman. I love it.
All right.
It's tales of Narnia and C.S. Lewis and Through the Wardrobe.
It's a very interesting plot, really. It's right on the corner, isn't it?
Yeah, with a tiny little front door and no frontage.
It's very strange, isn't it?
Yeah, in a modern housing estate, it's remarkable, quirky, really good, and with a nice garden plot as well. Once you're in, you're clearly in another land, aren't you? Really?
It's like a TARDIS, I would think, you know, because look from the front door, there doesn't look like there's anything there, and then you're in, and because it's on that corner plot, it must open up significantly. So this again is quite a sizable extension. Have we got the plan there by any chance, Nick?
Yeah. Oops.
So we look
That's-
existing and new.
And second. All right, so these are all the
We
plans.
won't let the technology beat us.
Well, I'll say, well, all right, here we go. There you go. So,
Well, that shows in itself, actually, the site plan there shows it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The big block.
I don't think it affects, because of that configuration, I don't think it affects others.
No,
Oh, not really.
if we're able to go to the block plan again,
one,
where we saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big dark. And those are garages at the back of the property, aren't they? So there's not as if it's sort
Yeah.
of impinging on anyone's view or.
No, and number 49 retains a decent garden, doesn't it? 3 times as big as
Yeah,
the neighbours.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Yeah, I have no issue personally. And there's no issue in terms of the view along the gardens, is there really? I know it breaks the symmetry, but it's.
Yes, but the north-south also doesn't matter. The lights coming in on other properties as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. So it's a no objection then, Nick.
So, Chairman, where did you tell me the flue in Parliament Square, Castle Street, comes up?
Sorry, that's
It's. You mean the one at the back of Cafe Rouge?
No, the other. I thought you were talking about the one that's on our list of.
yeah. Sorry,
Ah,
I
Nick.
think that's my fault. Sorry, Chairman. I think I misread the
the application.
Oh,
Yes.
right. Well, in that case, Chairman, will you indulge me in going back to that earlier list where we were considering?
The burger. This is the burger bar flue, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Because I noticed there's a ladder on the roof at the moment at that particular property, but the offending object is still there.
Flue is still there, but the burger bar is no more.
Well, yes, but we were told that enforcement were going to act fairly soon. And I just wonder whether this is the moment to strike again with yet another question to enforcement to say, we've noticed a ladder on the roof.
There's activity on the roof.
Yeah, does that mean that actually there's going to be a dismantling?
Okay.
Have you captured that for paper A, Nick?
Chairman. Yep, I have added that onto paper A.
Thank you very much. So we've done papers B and C. Any observations on paper D, which is decisions received from Herts County Council and East Herts Councils? No. Then we can move on to item 9, which is licensing applications. And there's one application on paper E. Confused me slightly, but Nick assures me that because this is a district application, it doesn't need as fast a turnaround. So
Right.
this
Cat
It's
is from
fact,
County Council.
the license for Prove.
Right, sorry,
Payment license.
Chairman.
Yes. Nick.
Yes, sorry, it's from the county council, so it doesn't come under the quicker system. So the applications from the district council are the 7-day turnaround, whereas the ones from the county council are the longer period because that's from the original legislation that was in place. So they got a longer period to consider.
Right. Did everyone have an opportunity at least to see the outline application on paper E? It's Monday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. And the seating area, I think, is largely similar to what's in place now.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to kick off with observations? The license up to midnight.
Welcome the proposal in terms of its territory. It's the hours that
Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Although
10 in the morning, is it? 10 in the morning till midnight.
7 days a week.
although
very
seated
good.
customers are better than they're eating and drinking at the same time.
Do we want it till midnight on a Sunday?
Sunday, because Hertford is very late, or was before all this happened. But
Even on
Yeah.
a Sunday?
no, not so much. Do you want to?
Do we have concerns around bank holidays as well? I don't know. I'm just.
Sunday concerns me.
Yes.
I mean, you could argue that eyes out on the street are not a bad thing, in terms of there's often a little bit of difficulty in that area, and eyes out on the street in terms of staff and people eating is not a bad thing.
Does it start to encroach? I mean, historically, licenses on a Sunday night have always finished at 10:30. Is this a sort of would this set a precedent that others would then follow?
I think that 11 would be better on Sunday. I have to say, I was actually more concerned about that space is used, that square is used for events on some occasions. I'm just trying to make a list in my mind, but I mean, there's sometimes when we have sort of fairground type events in town, they take up some of the space on that pavement. Obviously, Remembrance Sunday does, and such like. I don't know whether consideration has been given to the various events that take place in the centre of town, and whether those all of those seating provisions should need to be coordinated with that.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
It is a good point. So Nick, I think there's two comments. First of all, the committee generally welcome the opening of a cafe restaurant, or the reopening of a cafe restaurant in this location. There are concerns regarding the Sunday hours.
Yeah.
And also the use of that space for Hertford Town Council organised events, such as Remembrance Sunday. And the Christmas activities in that area sometimes.
Yeah, there are, and there have been a number of street activities which have been in that area. I mean, I'd really like us to have 10 days a year when something like that. I trying to specify them now is very, very difficult. But if we have 10 days,
I was trying to capture it, Councillor Pinkham, with Hertford Town Council sponsored events, effectively.
Yeah, I mean, how long is this license for? I mean, obviously with the pandemic, we have no events this year.
Yeah.
But how long does this license supposedly go on for? Because we hope, really hope, next year we will.
Nick, are you? I mean, again, being a county council application, is it a 12-month license or?
I think they are, annual licenses, 12 months.
And so once
I
we
think-
give it, we can't say, sorry, we're back to normal now. Could you all go away come next September?
That's why I think we would like to see some provision for Hertford Town Council sponsored events,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but certainly I wouldn't disagree with that. But I don't think we have the monopoly, do we? We may be the body that habitually uses the territory, but I think couldn't we leave it open for other events as well, or is that on one?
True.
Yeah,
I mean,
What about
it's an approved list. I mean, it's events approved by the town council. Perhaps rather
supported? I was going to use the word supported. Yeah.
yeah, supported. Yeah, fine.
Is that sufficient, Councillor Ruffles? Does that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and Councillor Toega, sorry.
Just looking at the seating area, I may be wrong about this, but could officers check that the seating area is the same as was Café Rouge and hasn't extended further towards the War Memorial? It seems to be slightly larger. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just an impression.
Yeah.
well, now that that road is blocked off, maybe they pushed a little further over.
It's just that Hertford House has an area as well, so I'm just wondering how far
Yeah.
they're going.
So I guess we could just add a rider that, you know, we would wish to be reassured that this is a similar footprint to that used by Café Rouge,
That's all. Yeah.
previously used by Café Rouge.
Thank you.
Okay, so on the agenda, we are moving forward. So is there any item 10? Are there any correspondence, any appeals that we need to consider?
1 second. I have got one appeal just to make committee aware of. There's an appeal for Cedar Cottage.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Goldings Lane. So that
Again,
yeah. So appeal for that one has come through, which has gone to the planning inspector.
and is it worth mentioning Molewood Hill, Hall, where there's an appeal on the enforcement action? So they built a what it is, some sort of detached building, and they retrospectively applied for permission. We objected because it's in the green belt, and they've appealed the enforcement action, I think. I believe. Is that right, Nick? I know we've seen it. We've had separate correspondence on it, but should that also
Yes.
or get a mention?
There is one for, yeah, correct.
And should individual councillors lodge their comments, or should this committee actually submit a comment to the appeal? I don't know what the correct form is. Councillor Ruffles, are you?
Always up for questioning, Chairman, because we habitually may have been doing the wrong thing, but in the past we've understood that anything we've said previously is conveyed to an inspector,
Right.
inevitably. But I don't think we've ever checked. I don't remember ever checking that happens. But and past practice may well be faulty. But for a long time, we haven't chosen to add a comment at the appeal stage.
Well, perhaps, Nick, we could just check that that the comments previously made by the planning subcommittee will be taken into account.
Yeah, it does actually say in the letter, Chairman. It says any comments that are made on the original application will be taken into account by the inspector who decides the appeal. And it does say that if you wish to amend or make new ones, got planning inspector by the 30th of November. So
okay, so it is covered. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
On to item 11. Any items for?
Chairman, we're coming off correspondence. Nick, I can't remember whether we mentioned last time our success with street naming, where the street naming people told us, I think, didn't they, that property, the block of flats next to Isabel and Edward House, that we were told our earlier suggestions were useless. This time they've accepted our Lancaster house name.
I did. I did, yes.
Do you think if we tell them the statue of John O'Gaunt is actually Lancaster, that they'd actually know the difference? And we could
Fooled
I
them
suppose
again.
every town should have a Lancaster house, shouldn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's quite rich.
Yes, yeah.
I hope we will eventually find the statue as well and put it up in the front lawn of Lancaster House. That being said, I believe that concludes all the items on the agenda.
Sorry, Chairman.
Yep.
Kind of linked, just to make committee aware in relation to items for future agenda, and talking about street naming. The developers of Blakemore Manor have come to us to say by the street naming department at East Herts Council. Would the committee like to suggest at the next meeting
Some names.
20 names? There's 15 roads.
This
So,
is
yeah.
the one for Thieves Lane, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, that's right.
It is.
Yeah.
if we could go for famous thieves,
Yeah.
that would be.
Well,
yes.
I did come from an area in Welling where we had Turpin's Rise and Turpin's Ride and all the rest of it, and Dick Turpin never actually went to Welling, but there you are. I think he carried on up the North Road a bit further north. But,
Yeah, went off to Huntington.
yes.
The Great Train Robbery could possibly provide a list of.
Was that on our branch line? Was it?
Ronnie Big Street.
Great.
I know you're euphoric because we finished in record time, but I think
How many names do we want, Nick? I couldn't quite catch.
One.
Sorry.
The one.
There's about 15 roads, but they've suggested 20 names. So I will add it to the papers for the next meeting of the 30th of November. So you've got some time to think about it. But
I see the theme
just make
being
aware.
Thieves Lane, if not local thieves. Okay, on that point, Nick, I think we better close this meeting. Thank you very much for your support tonight, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Thank you.